Here live.
Live, Senate Appropriations Committee, it's April 29th. We are discussing H219. The bill is coming to us from the Institutions Committee. So it's going to present it to us. Go ahead and introduce yourself for the record. Tell us what we need to know about 219.
All right, I'm Rob Plunkett, Senator, Bennington District Vice Chair of Institutions, and I'm here to present you H219 that the Senate Institutions voted out. I forget what day it was, but we voted out 5-0. And this is an act relating to establishing the Department of Corrections Family Support Program. So it says establishing the Department of Corrections Family Support Program, but the program has been in place for 20 years. And it's called the Kids Park Program. Kids Park Parenting Program, which is essentially a visitation program, but also a support program for incarcerated children and incarcerated women. This bill is codified with guardian effect, and it also extended to amend the bill. Right now, the student regional correctional facility program is in place. And this bill suggests that the state correctional facility is established for men. And it is run by the one program. And not familiar with it. It's essentially a transport program for poverty and abuse in general. And what this program will do, for program has been doing for women, nursing and health skills, planning communication resources, and perhaps most importantly, the and most of our committee, I think, we went to the women's facility yesterday, saw the facility for and it's moving. It's especially for someone going on across here. I have a sense of hospitals over the years, and a lot of times the question always is whether or not what impact is going to have on the have visitation, regardless of having that space there. What they have there is this wonderful welcoming space with photographs of women and children that visited over the years, and it's well needed. It's simply shooting on that to our so what the bill does beyond that, there's no funding in the bill right now, from what I understand. The program will cost approximately $400,000 or 15-ish. We're going to continue that to 75 for the men to get that established. It's not there right now. What I understand is that there's money this year to do that. And the program will only take effect after if there's appropriation for it. Each year. That is really the gist of what the bill is. What's in place for 20 years, but extended to the facility with the job of the follow that part of the bill. That's my understanding. There's no other obligations on yeah, there's a part of no physical obligations this year, but there is a requirement of Section 1 Commissioner to appropriate sufficient funding in the government like that.
So this would be in section report or section 2 of the bill, rather. I'm sorry.
Section 2 requires the commissioner to have it be part of the I think it's a recommendation to the governor, from what my understanding is, and the governor will either put it in the recommendation or not. And there is, as Senator Burchell, you just mentioned, there is a requirement for report, to report back essentially on how successful it's been.
So they have to tell the governor what the budget would be.
Yep.
What do you call the program again? Kids Apart what?
The Kids Apart Parenting Program,
Thank you.
but that doesn't appear on the bill, I believe.
It's sort of practice and drafting, you try to avoid naming specific private entities, but there might be an understanding that.
It does allow grants to entities to facilitate this, and we expect it to be one.
And there was an appropriation and that bill was introduced, I assume?
Not for us, but in the House, there was.
Okay. Any questions for Senator Buffett? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Duffy, tell us anything that we need to know about the fiscal note, which I assume is short.
It is, yes. For the record, James Duffy, Joint Fiscal Office. Yeah, so as Budget Council already pointed out, there is no appropriation for this program in the bill. Department of Corrections in the bill drafting committee process was able to identify money available in their departmental-based budget sufficient to cover the fiscal year 2026 expansion of this program. To amend the two correctional facilities that are named in the bill, which are the Chittenden Regional and Northern State Correctional Facilities. But as Legislative Council did also point out, Section 2 of the bill includes a directive to the Department of Corrections to include the necessary costs to sustain these services, this expansion of services, in future budget proposals to the General Assembly. So to the extent that those proposals are incorporated into future DOC budgets and passed by the General Assembly, those would represent an additional cost.
No obligation to do so. And the 383 would just be for the extending to two other facilities to include the father, but it would include all facilities.
That's correct. What was originally an appropriation in the bill and what is now being taken from the DOC budget, about $390,000, is for the expansion of those two programs to the men's programs of those two facilities, is my
Do
understanding.
we know what it would be to extend to all facilities, or all to meet the gender neutrality language in the bill?
I think the department might be the best entity way in there. The fiscal note doesn't contemplate the cost that expanding the program to all correctional facilities in the state.
That's the goal, right?
I can chime in. I'm the policy director for Department of Corrections. It's not something we fully contemplated. I think there are some operational challenges with scaling it to some facilities that are more regional and detention-based, notably Marshall Valley, mostly pretrial and continued, and St. Johnsbury, the Northeast Correctional Center. The median length of stay for folks in this facility is 3 days. So it would be more difficult to establish it on a permanent basis.
But when, at the Section 2, do you have to, when you're presenting your budget to the administration, does that include for all facilities or just additional facilities?
So it's kind of intentionally vague in the sense that there's the intent provision in Section 1 that says this is supposed to be statewide by 2028. And I think that part of the testimony and the reason why it was done this way is to give the department flexibility to determine the needs that my colleague just spoke about, capacity, practical issues. And so if their budget allows for building it out and accommodating those spaces, that would appear in the request of the governor. But there's no obligation to do it, just an intent to build out the system by 2028.
So we're saying it's our intent that DOC work on a phase plan by 2020.
And the report back is the back end of that to see where they're at in scaling it out.
Okay. Any other questions about this bill? Okay, well, if not, then, okay. So there's moving the bill favorably. And you guys in institutions didn't make an amendment.
Nope. 5-0, I believe.
Okay, so with that, the clerk shall call the roll.
All right, H 219. Favorable. The date today? 29th. Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Baruch. Hold it. Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yep.
Senator Brennan. Yes. Senator Perchlik.
Yeah,
Terrific. Want me to hold it for a minute or send it out?
if he shows up before they come and get it, but otherwise I don't think anything.
Okay. Reporter?
The report, so.
I'll do it.
Okay. But your volunteer.
We see that.
You had a lot of people volunteering.
So I was taking copious notes. I knew it was
Thank
coming
you.
down the pipe. Good man.
Okay, now we're gonna move to 8494, the capital bill.
Okay.
Eat it all.
Pardon my reach.
Thank you for joining us.
My
Senator
pleasure.
Harrison. Oh, it's holding, did you have handouts or?
I
only
believe
on-
the
I forgot.
committee assistant has handouts.
Do
You
you
want
have
me to,
handouts on the capital bill?
Wonderful.
Do you want us,
really nice spreadsheet,
yeah,
because I heard that,
Gotcha.
like,
Okay.
we do.
so for the record, Wendy Harrison. So we'll start doing that.
You can do whatever you want, Chair.
Well, not really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One for Phil. Wendy Harrison, Chair of Institutions, and I represent the Wyndham District. So, the capital bill spreadsheets are being passed out. And what I plan to do, if this is acceptable, is to go over the spreadsheet with you and then mention a couple of policy items.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is, which the committee, we've talked a little bit about it, that all the bonded dollars are in the capital bill. We can learn about them. But it's the cash fund that we pull into the budget and the expenditures there, which we look to the institutions commission to come up with those priorities for that cash fund.
Yes, and just, I'll start with talking about the cash fund versus the bonded money. So in 2023, the previous treasurer, and the governor and the legislature, agreed on a system where we would have, cash funding for, a capital program so that we wouldn't be limited to bonded dollars which have an interest cost to them. And so the goal has been officially to increase the cash usage in the capital bill, but it hasn't always turned out that way. So one of the requirements that we have in the capital bill is to have a report from JFO on how it's working out, this intention of using cash versus, bonded dollars. So we'll have that conversation in January, hopefully, have it at the beginning of the session instead of at the end of the session. And just generally, so that you know, there's a committee that decides before we embark on a 2-year capital bill that limits the amount of bonding that, or suggests a limit, and the debt limit this 2-year period was $100 million over 2 years, and so that's our cap. So, to get to the spreadsheet, which is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. What's the color code?
Okay, that's the fun part.
Cash.
So this section is the governor's recommend, this section is the House bill, and this section is the Senate proposal from our committee. And then there are various columns, it gets complicated because there's cash funding and there's bonded funding. So you'll see the first two columns in each of the three categories. The first column is bonded and the second column is cash. Those are both for FY '26. And what we're doing right now is approving FY '26. There are numbers in FY '27, but we'll approve those next year and they'll probably change. Okay?
The cash fund, we call
That's,
them C in the governor.
yep, C and then H and then M. Those are the three cash fund
And the ones
areas.
that are highlighted
The ones that are,
in the description,
that means that either the House or the Senate did something different than the governors recommend. So those are the ones that I was going to focus on, if that works.
or-
Okay.
I
So,
think the cash fund is really the most important.
do you want me to? Okay, do you want me to go to the cash fund first? Well,
There aren't many colors for the cash fund.
no, there are more on later pages.
And we
Statewide
definitely
three,
don't have to
the
go
3
through all
acre
of it.
parcel stormwater compliance was what's happened there is we needed to find some funding for this year. So we reduced the the $1.1 million amount in FY '27 to $850,000 in FY '27. And we fully intend to look at that in the future because we don't know if the, all of that money will be used. And those are for 3 acre parcels that are owned by the state. And so if the 3 acre bill changes the requirement for those parcels, I don't know if it does, that could send it out a little bit longer. Okay, and then the Pittsford Academy firing range, right now we don't have an FY '27 bonded. We're going to look at that again next year. Right now, they're not ready to go. So that's why we, use that funding for some of the things that this committee, suggested that we talk about. This first section is buildings and general services, BGS. So I'm gonna actually skip this part because it's, we work very well with BGS and these numbers, fit their needs, so we can come back if you have questions. Agency of Human Services, we did make some change, you can see the House made changes, and we, agreed with the House in that section. This is where, this has corrections facilities. Actually, this year it's all corrections facilities.
I'm sorry, what line you on?
Those are lines, 20 through 26, the bottom of the first page. Okay. So page 2 has a lot more yellow on it. And, you'll recognize some of these. Lines 33, 34, and 35, those are what we call the 3 Bs. And I want to be very clear on this. These are housing projects that are currently in process. These are more than shovel ready. They are happening, but their funding is insecure. And what the administration did before they made their recommendation was the administration had a list of housing projects that they wanted to support. They sent that list to ACCD. ACCD looked at that list and came up with these 3 programs or projects. So they're recommending those 3 projects. And one is the Bennington High School redevelopment project, which is they're all really great projects in my opinion. The Bennington one is multi-use. It's a combination of the town, private developer. There's going to be a senior center, meals provision, housing, affordable housing, and it's right in the downtown designated area. The Berry project is something that's been on the books for a while, but hasn't really gotten going. The property's platted. It's what they need is access, an access road and infrastructure. And it's also, an infill, all three of these are infill projects, which is really important. And then the Brattleboro project, it's also infill, it's called Winston Prouty. Winston Prouty is actually a human services agency, and it's also for housing, up to 300 units. They're about to work on phase one, and that project, I want to mention, they are looking at completely different funding sources than housing projects usually do. Their intention is that that there be affordable for all income and not have the strings that are required with federal funding. And I think this is a particularly good time to fund a project like this, because seeing if someone can make it happen without federal funding and being more creative this is really the right time to do this. In each of these cases, the funding itself goes to the town, and the towns are using it for infrastructure, for either water infrastructure, water, wastewater, or streets. So it's not going into private pockets. So those I'm very supportive of. This is when the pro tem comes back. Just note that the Constitution House in Windsor, which has been discussed, that is in major maintenance under line 31. That's already taken care of. Okay, so I just wanted to note that for the record. And they're doing really good work, and it's going to be ready for the celebration. Bennington Battle Monument, those funds are carried over from the current year and will be used to maintain safety fencing and also start the planning and design work. 38 and 39, those came to us from Appropriations, and we appreciate that you brought us funding as well as expenditures. So you probably know those. Study on multi-parcel use in downtown Montpelier, and then grant for recovery residence purchase. So those are.
What's this in there?
Yeah, there were some concerns about the description of the second one. So our bill has that language.
We got you the language you needed. Did we get you? Do you have the language you need?
We have language that we need. Yes. Okay, so I'll go to section 5. Do you have a question?
Sure.
So with the three Bs, as you called them,
Uh-huh.
you said that the funding sources for them were either at risk or something like that. What's is that because you mentioned that the Brattleboro one is not federally funded.
Right.
Is the risk federal? Like, what is the risk that?
I should have said they weren't completely funded.
Oh, okay, so they're
a better way of saying.
Okay, so they're
Yes.
in process, but they're not totally funded.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct. And I have some more information if you want.
No, that's okay. I just was curious as to, why, how we came to be looking at these, like what kind of risk they were under that we're now looking at.
Yes, their potential is huge. They just need the last little bit to carry them over. And it's important to me that public money support public infrastructure. So I just want to make that very clear.
And that's what's happening.
That is what's happening, yes. And these can be finished quickly too, which is, they're already in progress. Okay, so section 5. Are we good for that? The Historic Preservation Grant Program, there are 4 programs here, 44 through 48, I'm sorry, through 47, that we have every year, and they're just great programs. And even with the minimal amount of money, 250,000 is relatively small. They get a lot done with those programs.
39, I know there was a question about where the money was going, I think when we.
In which?
That over.
Oh,
Line
39?
Didn't we say it was gonna go to one place, but I think in your committee.
It needs to go to another.
DHCD.
What?
For the
The, recovery residence purchase,
Yeah, what is DHCD?
Part of helping community development. I mean, we follow the language that we received from you guys on this.
I couldn't remember if it switched to Department of Housing and Community Development, or if it started somewhere and ended there, or ended there and started somewhere else.
it was the agency that was the issue.
It
And I-
traveled a very circular.
Okay.
path
Started
back to
somewhere.
where-
But that's the proper spot.
So did it end up where we started, or where they
Department of
started?
Housing and what, conservation?
Housing
Community
and
development.
community
Community
development.
Sim site and over there. You've got conservation on that.
Okay.
Or,
Once you learn all of those things, you'll be doing great.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. You can go.
okay, okay, so now we're down to section 5, these grants, historic preservation grants, barn preservation grants, I actually applied for one of these years ago, and it worked really well for 2 of these, and they're great, they're easy, the staff is wonderful, and they do a lot, as I was saying, with small amounts of money. They've been $250,000 for years, which is really a minimal amount of money with the impact that they have. And so the House increased the 250,000 to 300,000. And it pains me, but we needed to do it to make it work, to go back to the 250,000 in FY '26, but we do keep the 300,000 in FY '27, so that those grants will continue. And they'll continue at the higher rate. Okay?
Yeah.
And then the veterans home,
You checked it. They came in here and I couldn't remember if that was just in preparation for what they were asking institutions, or did they?
the historic preservation?
No, agricultural fair field day.
Oh, they should be happy. This is
I'm
what
just
they
trying to remember
normally get.
if we put something, or just, there's a basic
We
appropriation.
had some money in there for the,
For the water.
3 acre rule, didn't we?
Remember they talked about that was the
2
question,
million?
or maybe there's specifically for
Split
that.
between 4 fairs, 2 million,
One time.
That,
one time.
Yeah, we had-
but the Rutland Fair wasn't able to take advantage of it.
They're working on it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But is that on the one-time list? I don't remember.
I don't think that was this year. That was a previous year, wasn't it?
That was, I know that,
That
yeah.
was this year, but-
Yeah, no, this is,
Last year.
yeah.
Because they come in here every year, but maybe they
Or
don't,
was
they
it?
come in just to give us an update, not necessarily ask us for money.
For this.
But maybe so we're supportive of what institutions do.
Well, the 3 acre rule has been an issue for them for maybe, well, since, I haven't been here that long, but I mean, 3 years, it's been an issue for them, and it still is. And I know staff has had a meeting last week with them,
Mhm.
with the Rutland
Yeah.
Fair. So, that's continuing. I don't know about this one-time funding. I don't
Okay.
think we have
This,
that.
I,
But,
if you want to hear about it? I know a little bit about this.
This,
Is that what you're talking about?
no, I just wondered if there was anything else that we had done.
That sounds familiar, $100,000 a day.
So it's just base funding, I think, so we just kept that in the base. And goes through AAFM, and they distribute it to all the fairs. They each get like $10,000.
with the 300,000.
No, there's $100,000 base appropriations in ag budget
Oh.
that helps them just with $10,000 stipend just to keep the doors open.
And that's what this 300,000 does.
And then this helps them with actual projects.
It also just, it helps them
Probably.
with whatever they need. That's what they typically get every year.
Well, we got maybe zero, but when you got $300,000, you got more than,
They probably got a gallon.
yeah.
No, but they do a really good job. Okay, so Veterans Home, they have a lot of work that they need to get done. This house lowered the amount just based on where they are in the work, and we're fine with it. We didn't make any changes.
I have a question
Yeah.
about that. I see that, so the design and construction of the renovation of the American unit, I assume that's just like a part of the house. And my bigger question though is, what processes, or have any processes happened around like potential planning for making that building more energy independent?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So
And
that,
how can we support it?
well, we are supporting
Yeah,
it. That's what they're planning on doing. They were actually going to renovate different buildings, but they found out this one is just in terrible shape. It has, pipes, lead pipes that need to be removed and, you know, out of concrete.
yep.
So they're, putting the other renovation on hold, and they're bringing that one up. They are going to use, I think, heat pumps. They are doing some more, energy friendly work.
Great.
And something else that they're doing is, I'll go a little bit ahead, but the Conservation Commission in that district wants to do a farm, and so they're calling it an incubator farm. And it would have, you know, vegetables and they have 12 acres that on the veterans' property, and they want to have a demonstration farm, and they would have the food go to the veterans' home, and then also have training for the veterans to become farmers if they would like to. So it's a really, really good project, and it came in very late. We weren't able to fund it at a large amount, but we funded it something so that it can get them started.
Great. Thank you.
While we're on that similar question, what's the Johnson central heating plant going to be replaced with?
The heating plant. That one is probably, I mean, so that's the state colleges. That one, it's a central steam plant. It's in very bad shape.
Yeah,
So
they've
it's
been
going to,
talking about replacing it for years, and there was discussion at one point of switching to wood heat. I don't know if they're still talking.
they're not looking at wood heat. They're calling it more modern, fuel efficient alternative. But it's gas, I believe. Propane, right? It's not, it's,
The big plant, the propane.
maybe it's, does anybody remember?
I don't remember.
Is this to start?
It's not wood. It's not.
Is this this is the total cost, or is it to start it? It's $1.5 million.
That's not the whole thing. This program helps support the replacement of the existing system with a more modern, fuel-efficient alternative. So it's fuel, it's not.
Right, but it's not, I guess it's an alternative to the existing, but it's not alternative in any other way.
No, but I can come, I can let you know, but
Yeah.
I remember
Not all that
when I
fun.
heard about it, I was like, you know.
I mean, to say it out loud, it feels weird to be funding
I
a
know.
thing that is new equipment that they have a lifetime of like 20 years.
Yep.
That burns a significant amount of fossil fuels. Like if at all possible,
Yep.
you know, we really should be moving in a different direction. And I think they were here earlier, and I think we asked this question then
Yes,
as well.
you did.
But
And did they,
I don't recall.
yeah.
Fuel oil, they said they're gonna burn fuel. And
So-
Yeah.
go off and we'll have to do that.
But
No, it's,
in any case, thank you for. I know it's not you.
no,
I
no,
just,
we had those concerns too. I guess if we were willing to spend more money, I mean, that might be what they would say.
Well, let me think about.
Yeah.
Combined heat and power, maybe some distribution to all the buildings.
Right, they have a history of, yeah, where they have a,
Generally speaking.
well, there's a, agricultural lab there that they feed, and the timing of the agricultural lab versus the school.
You talking
is
about
something they've
methane
been
digestion?
Struggling about.
What?
No,
No?
it's, they tried to cover the heat for 2 buildings, but it ended up not working out. They thought they had a good idea and were saving money, but it didn't work. But I can get you more information.
Okay.
Thanks.
Because these things go slowly too,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
And I just want to let the pro tem know that major maintenance in section 4 includes the old Constitution House. And it's going to be fine. It's going to be good. You're doing a good job.
What kind of, the money funds, what exactly?
Restoration, initial restoration. And I can get you more information. It's, closed now. They're doing windows. They're doing mechanical systems. FEMA has to, they have to actually relocate, raise it up because it's in a floodplain. It's roof repairs, chimney, porch, and they're well aware of the anniversary date, and so they'll have it to a level where the public can enjoy it. And we talked with them about possibly letting the public be part of the restoration a little bit before, and so they're considering that. I can get you more information from Laura Trishman.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Thank you for attention,
sure.
because it is.
It's very special. Yeah, right. And it's a really cool building.
Is that, what, 77? Sorry? Is that, 27?
2027, yeah. Yeah, so they're gonna have a soft opening in 2027.
Just next 250 years, but for us, a little different.
Okay, so.
When you guys talk about the walleye association, do you have other fishing associations? There's only the walleyes that have an
The
association.
walleye are very special.
What
I
about
know that, that's
Lake
clear.
Champlain International? Did you talk about them? Well,
Well, that is them.
no,
Well,
no,
the
no,
you
it's
mean
different
that-
organisms.
That's in our budget though.
There's walleye and there's
Oh, then no, well, their tournament is at.
Lake
at
Champlain International has a tournament
Okay,
on Lake Champlain.
Yeah, the LCI is completely different than a walleye.
Yeah,
Touch it and
Okay.
risk losing your fingers.
The only thing, Joe, that didn't care.
well, it's
Yes,
carried on.
Oh,
It's,
But there isn't any other associations that come to you,
no,
whatever.
not yet.
Okay. Not yet.
so where's the LCI then?
The
It's
LCI
in,
It's in our
the
budget.
Fish
It's
and
in our
Wildlife.
budget?
Yeah,
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fish and Wildlife,
Fish and
right?
Wildlife.
Yeah.
Which,
It could potentially live elsewhere.
It could be in
the
fairs.
future.
It could be in
Just to say, it could,
If
you
it
know, it's
comes
an
with-
economic development activity,
Right.
so
like transit could be
Similar.
excellent development.
It's in Fish and Wildlife?
it's in Fish and Wildlife.
Fish then.
I suppose so.
It
It
sounds
is
fishy.
related somehow.
I noticed that fishing got carved out from molesting animals.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Andy made sure.
Apparently sticking a hook in their mouth is
Yeah,
molesting.
it's not, you know,
Correct.
you can fish on the rail trail, you can't do anything else.
But the walleye actually are bringing us attention from all over the country because the things
But no
that
hunt.
they're doing are notable.
The walleye or the association? What's
The
doing?
walleye that the association is producing.
They're
The
particularly
premier
big.
destination
Yeah.
for walleye
And-
fishing.
Wow.
And the 25,000 is for, capital, too, which is good. And then the fire
Yeah,
apparatus that
we
you
got a
sent
whole-
us,
Yeah.
that you also,
Okay.
again, sent us
Thank
money,
you.
so that was good.
Yeah.
And I checked it out, and it's a great truck. It's a
Yeah, we
great-
got a full presentation.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Before we leave that section,
Yeah.
the dam safety and hydrology projects, these are for state-owned dams, or is this
I
for-
believe it's just state-owned, and
Okay.
those are the smaller dams.
Oh, this is just the smaller,
Well, we have big dams, too. See?
are those coming up? Yeah, I'm wondering
Um,
if, just anticipating that there's gonna be some big.
These are,
Yeah, go ahead.
your first question, the dam safety,
Mm-hmm.
the $1 million, Agency of Natural Resources owns approximately 100 dams. Recently completed an initial risk assessment. FY 26 and 27 funds will be used for comprehensive assessment and final design of the Kent Pond Dam
They're all
located in
small
Killington.
things.
And the Department of Fish and Wildlife, as well as the Lowell Lake Dam, classified high hazard potential dam in Londonderry. That's owned by, Forest Parks and Recreation.
They're all the small dams.
Yeah.
We didn't used to do anything that we didn't inspect them.
Ooh, that's not good.
Now,
A little behind there. Well,
Yeah.
and, do you have anything separate for, I'm just anticipating, there's going to be a big need for, refurbishment of the Waterbury Dam. That's not in here separately.
The Waterbury Dam, we talked about it last year. I think it might be in a previous capital bill.
Okay.
One difficult thing is that we're only looking at 2 years.
Yeah.
When there's years before and after, and I would like to actually have a better way to.
Yeah.
Sure. No, that's okay, I just wanted, that was a thing to
Yeah,
flag.
no, that's an important one.
Well, and anticipating that big costs are coming down the timeline for the future.
Yeah, so I think that's.
Yeah. The Waterbury Dam. Yeah, that looks like it.
Yeah, so we've been talking about that for years, actually, and,
Yes.
and they're getting things done.
Well, and we gotta get our house in order, so.
Right, and we did increase the number of folks in that,
Yeah.
department,
Yeah.
which was really important. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, thank you. So clean water, we're all good, we agree with the governor. Military, good, agree with the governor. Section 12, this is the Big E building, it always needs help, it's a pretty fun place to go, everybody should go, seriously, I went this last year, don't go on a Saturday. The Veterans Home Incubator Farm that I talked about is in this area, section, then Department of Public Safety. We agreed, the total amount agrees with the governor. The House put more money in FY '26 than the governor did, some money in FY '26, and we agreed with that. Judiciary, these are the courthouses. There are some courthouses the state's responsible for, others the counties are responsible for.
So the one that we have in our budget for the restroom that we talked about a little bit,
That's here.
that's county, right?
the
And
bathroom
that's
is in the next
Essex,
building.
and it's here
Yeah.
for almost, 3.7.
The Essex one is a great project, is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
The Essex connector? So you're familiar with that, how they're doing the other, there's 2 buildings and they're attaching them, and it's gonna look wonderful, it's still gonna look,
So
historic.
that would be an example of something we could have put in and kept that. Why did we put that $50,000 for that bathroom into the capital budget? Did you think about it?
It was Emily's decision.
Queen of this. Yeah, I don't know why we did that. I think that was one that was like in the BAA, out of the BAA,
Right, it
in the
wasn't,
BAA.
right.
It was not.
This is the.
But when we
Prince
think of those
Lucie
things in the future,
Courthouse,
we should
so-
move them to the capital budget.
Well, that'll be next.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah,
we'll
we
move it.
buried in this, I'm sure there's a big plaque with, lights and.
We saw the plan.
And the plans did include restrooms.
Yeah, well, we put,
The
there's
Prince
$50,000,
Lucie bathroom.
there's
We got a
$50,000.
bathroom
All right,
in our bill.
We put 50,000 in just for the handicap accessible restroom in that building next door to the courthouse.
all right.
But it came to us from the governor, BAA, that's how it came to us.
Okay. So I would expect, I would hope that the folks doing the project have at some point all of those
Yeah.
separate funding. The White River Junction Courthouse renovation, we didn't actually change anything, but we had to move money around between cash and bonded. So the total in the Senate section is still $8 million. That courthouse is going to be finished this summer, so we need to be able to pay the contractor. Okay? And then the dry hydrant program, next one down, under rural fire protection, they wanted 75,000, I believe, of an increase. We weren't able to give them that, but we gave them, at least in the first year, we're proposing 35,000, because it's a really good program, if you're familiar with that, where they use ponds as water sources.
For rivers.
Yes,
It's a really good program.
but they've been they've been level funded for years.
But you increased it to
Hoping to, it's not
Good
done
luck.
until it gets past.
Yeah.
Did we not have a dry hydrant, one in our bill too? Anywhere?
I don't
Or
remember.
dreaming?
I can't remember.
Well, we need to
Or did we
communicate.
talk about it with the fire truck,
Fire apparatus,
the fire up
we
there?
did talk about water supply, and we talked about
Did
that.
that.
And
Maybe
so,
that was
just FYI, reallocations those are funds that are not being used in, previous or current years that are going to be, available. And the ones that are not highlighted at the top, those are the ones that were in the governor's recommend. And then, the House has a whole subgroup of their committee that goes and searches for these. And so those are the ones with the House now, the yellow ones. We just take it.
We were just-
I mean, we agree with them.
And you used the 5 million for project or whatever the total.
Exactly. And it's, House is already allocated.
Right.
By the
Part
time
of
it
your-
gets to us. Yep, and then it's the overall total at the back, and then something to note that on the Senate side, these two, they balance, there's a negative 349, and then there's a positive 349, just so that, we have to pay ourselves, remember, it's a 2-year allocation.
This you?
Okay.
Yeah. Another
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, so it's the same question. On line 148, the boiler replacements, I assume this is an oil boiler. It's gotta be consistent.
Wait, Newport,
Yeah. the correct-
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the reallocation.
It's a,
So the project's probably done.
Newport is one where they had a, wood fire, where it was logs. I believe that.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't have any
Great.
issues with- But they stopped
Like a-
using that.
I think they got it back on.
I know,
Not good.
No.
yeah.
But that's not clean.
Well,
Yeah.
I just
The
wanna
log-
know.
That's not
I
clean.
just wanna
They-
know.
yeah, I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
I seem to
Unless you
remember
use
our chair proposing an amendment 2 years ago or 3 years ago, requiring that all replacement tanks be more efficient.
Yeah, they have, if they didn't do a renewable, they had to say why. But I don't know, did that amendment,
It never made it through.
did pass? Yeah.
You also had a bill that did the
I've had a
same
bill, I've
thing.
had several times I've had
That
that.
you had.
Not gone.
Senator Marbury.
Maybe with the new institution chair, I should put that bill back.
It could, well,
You should.
it seems
Next
recent.
year we'll go after Johnson.
Oh, wait, so then. The banter.
Okay.
So, I think that's a perfectly reasonable requirement, and I would expect that anytime you do something, it would be more efficient. I mean, but it's important to note that. And then I would know the answers to your questions when I come in. But also, I think we should ask them if it's not renewable, and that's something I can just do. And I'm happy to do that.
If not, we'll ask you on the floor.
Maybe I want to talk about it on the floor.
That's
Okay, so that's where we are, and, yeah, so the debt limit, conversation about, capital versus, or bonded versus cash, and the housing, projects were the main things I wanted to say.
Okay.
Are we,
Private.
alright,
Probably. There's a lot of inside jokes. Right?
I guess.
Any other questions for Senator Harrison? Elect counsel this year? Vice chair?
I applaud the work.
Yeah. there's a lot of
Great
work.
work.
It's a good committee, we all work together. Thank you for having us. So
Okay.
I'm good, we're good?
Yeah, I
I don't know
will
if I-
entertain a
any
motion to
I'll
pass
move
the
the bill
bill.
favorably.
Okay, so moved. The clerk will clerk.
Where's the
away.
clerk?
Where's the clerk? What do you
He's
need?
writing his budget report.
I know, it's good.
We still in the same day?
Yeah.
Did you vote on the last bill? I did. 7 all then? Yep.
He's
Okay.
only asking because he he's gotta report that one and this one.
So, page 494,
But I don't know.
as amended by the Senate, Senator Norris,
Yes.
Senator Watson,
Yes, with explanation.
with explanation, Senator Brew,
Yes.
Senator Lyons,
Yes,
Senator Westman,
Yep.
Senator Brennan, yes, Senator Perchlik.
Yeah.
7-0.
What's your explanation?
So just would love to follow up on, information about, either, why Johnson is doing fossil fuels, or, what the situation is with, the Newport Correctional, facility, and just interested in having a standard to say that we can't keep doing this, right? Like we're going to have, continual, replacements of heating systems, and we need to set a good example and do the work, even though it might cost us more upfront. It's like the lifetime of it is likely to be cheaper if we choose a renewable option. So anyway,
Heard and agreed.
making a note
Yeah,
for the future.
second vote down.
Reporter, Senator Watson, did you say?
yeah, Senator Watson's reporting this.
You're reporting this one?
Oh, gosh. I
Should
could.
have voted no, then you would.
That would have been my out.
Do you want to report?
Yeah, I mean, there's
I'm just
not,
saying that you're,
we agree. There's
Yeah.
not much, sure, I can do that.
you can explain your vote.
I could.
Okay, Senator Watson.
I had a note.
There's
Okay.
a lot of Barry and Washington County.
That's true. That's fair. There's
So,
also,
Emily, are you gonna walk us through this?
It's like mixing good.
I wanted to call it the tactical
Very
amendment. the
Yeah,
technical
exactly.
amendment.
and we know.
But the committee remembers there were some things that we gotta change, or maybe we didn't talk about them, I can't remember on Friday. Did we talk about, well, doesn't matter if we talked about it, we're gonna talk about it now.
Everybody got, no, I
Are
think
you
not
using
the
this
changes I'm
or
gonna
the
talk
web
about, we
report?
didn't talk
Web
about on
report.
Friday. Brady is on his way over.
So there's a
So-
few
Why aren't you
technical
using this?
changes we need to make.
Did you get the lady about in that section?
They're small.
Section number, is it? Oh, I know. You know that section number?
Yeah.
What number is it?
The secretary, that's gonna come Friday, wants to talk about the adult ed.
Oh, more sheets.
You can do it.
More sheet.
This
This should be the last
Right,
one.
that'd be that.
Until we get to
I put this all in the web report.
No, that one they're showing you.
Amazing.
So-
You should have been report too. Why are you using the web report?
Well, it's today, the last one.
General.
I don't know.
No,
See,
you were in the
you're
file.
And he has.
Remember when-
She agrees on
You beat
And I
me to it.
generally think that she is really smart.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
All right, ready. So when we finally finished scrubbing all the numbers at the end of last week, we realized the Senate version was slightly in the hole. Based on all the changes that you made. And when we figured out why you were in the hole, it was because on this page, if you flip over to line 70, this line that was all other changes, the error that we had, that this will be the last year that we make it, was we had a formula in that cell, and it should have been fixed. Should have been a flat number.
They're a formula.
We had a formula, an Excel
An
formula,
equation.
an equation.
To automatically calculate.
So how much are we out?
About 400,000, but we figured it out. So this was at negative 1.9, no, negative 0.19, so a negative 190,000, when it should have been at 250,000. So when we reconciled sort of everything, we figured out we were in the hole a little bit. The way we have figured, and then, like I said, sometimes, I don't know if I can tell the story or tell the secrets, but a former finance commissioner that I worked for, got a lot of good, you always find the money, but like sometimes the money just falls in your lap, and like the real secret is like sometimes the money just falls in your lap. So in this instance, we had this little hole that we had to fill, and in the last couple days, some money has fallen into our lap. So the treasurer's office, we reached out to the treasurer's office, CFR, sort of some of the places where money is transferred into the general fund. CFR had about $200,000 they could kick in the budget adjustment, and same with unclaimed property, had a little bit more money based on their updated projections. So the amendment that you have in front of you deals with this.
We don't actually have it in front of us.
You what?
We don't actually have it in front of us.
Technically, you don't have it in front of you. That Grady's got that we're about to present.
That's just-
Not just
We don't in any way.
Anyway, we'll update the transfer, and so it updates the FY 2025 transfers in, DFR and unclaimed property. What that does is increases the amount of money that comes over from FY 25 into FY 26 to balance the 26 budget, and then we are back in balance. So, I should then give you this other spreadsheet, which shows that.
Didn't you just say that this one was the last?
No, I said there were
one?
4 more.
Notice up in the right-hand corner, this is including the amendment.
Yes,
that we're-
you don't technically have it in front of you.
We haven't passed.
You haven't passed. So this assumes that this amendment passes. But so that first line, line 1, in the prior sheets was 138.52. The update to 139.7, which includes getting more money for unclaimed property and a little bit more from the Department of Financial Regulation. That changes where we are. In line 2, there's also a change here in the amendment. So per S-127 that you had on the floor, and I believe passed on third reading today with an amendment, S-127 is the medical debt bill. That assumes that $1 million goes to the treasurer's office for the whatever the medical debt bill does. That reversion is now in the budget. So instead of originally we were reverting $5 million, and that bill had the other $1 million taken care of to fund that bill. But sort of from a technical perspective, the best way to actually do it is to revert it in the budget, and then it's appropriated in that bill to deal with it. So what this does is accounts for that bill separately. So this has an increase in the reversion by $1 million, so from 5 to 6. That changes the 7.12 to 8.12. And then on line 83 on the back is where we have another $1 million being spent for the medical debt relief bill. So in those transactions plus the additional funds from DFR and unclaimed property puts you at $10,000 above, which is perfect. That is all in the amendment that we will walk through in a moment, but wanted to walk you through the spreadsheets to sort of show how the changes in the words and what's in the bill are actually impacting the budget itself.
Okay.
Quick question. Emily, on the first handout you gave us, on line 97. Just quickly go through that for me to see
Oh, I'm on the wrong one.
the first handout you gave us.
Yes.
Base balance used to cover one-time appropriations.
Yes, so the balance used to cover one-time appropriations. So this is the sort of base budget, so reoccurring revenue and reoccurring expenses. The net of those reoccurring expenses and those reoccurring revenues is a positive, in the Senate version, $28.85 million. So those funds can then be available to spend on one-time investments.
So the governor was at 70.2.
Yeah.
The House came in at 47. The difference, they spent less than he did, is what this is saying?
They spent less on, they spent more on the base budget.
But less
than
on the
he did,
one-time.
But less on the one-time.
Okay.
And most of those, I think, are in the rate increases, compared to the governor in
I was
the
getting
healthcare.
confused between the base and, okay, yep, thank you.
And then the big difference, I should point out, just because it's sort of a technical thing, the big difference between the Senate and the House in terms of this base and one-time piece, 18.77, there was a little bit of, there were differences between the House and Senate, but the major difference is the $19 million change in the childcare space. So moving that childcare from a reduction in the base to keeping the base and funding it through a transfer. of funds. The transfer itself is one time. So through this transaction, you leave that money in the base, which means you're spending more base funds on base things than the governor or the House was. So that's.
And that, what is the equation in 97? What numbers are the balance?
Should be the 2479 and 81 and the 2508.
Oh, 2479 36?
Yeah.
And 2508?
Yeah. Right, yeah, 28, yeah.
Okay. It's line 81, line 96 minus line 81.
Correct.
Okay. That's
Cool.
the spreadsheet,
That's the spreadsheet.
which tomorrow, we're just gonna hand out the face one. We're not gonna hand out the one-time one, because we're gonna hand out the other one.
You're gonna hand out this one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want copies of it or not. I feel like everybody.
We already made the copy, so we're already calling you Emily Big Sheet Burn.
Cool. I've been called worse things. Yeah, I don't think there's anything to go through. This one, the big change. The change on this one compared to the last version, so this, I've added the governor's proposed one time to this sheet. So that's just it. It doesn't show the difference between the governor and anybody, but it just shows for reference what the governor had proposed.
Yeah, so all the numbers are the same. Just add the governor column and the different column. We still got it on one big sheet. Okay.
I don't know if it makes sense. Probably makes sense to have Grady come join me. Walk through the amendment. And I can provide commentary on that.
Running commentary?
Yes.
Color?
I'm gonna be color.
Okay, you're gonna be the color?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. This will be posted now that Grady's in the chair.
Correct.
So these are the sheets we're using now.
Except just two of them. And then there'll also be a highlight sheet. So we have a couple changes to make.
Thank you, Grady Nixon, Joint Fiscal. So you'll notice some of these instances of amendments have highlights. That's just to show you the ones that are new since the last time you saw the amendment package last week. The first and second instances of amendment are connected, so that's where that $118,000 swap is happening. So net neutral, it's just fixing where it's being appropriated.
That we accidentally put the money in public safety and it's supposed to go to the Defender General, so this fixes that.
Right, so $118,000 up in the first instance of amendment, and then $118,000 down in the second instance of amendment.
And you can't see that, you're just telling us that the numbers.
Right,
The
yes.
underlying numbers change. Those go up.
If you look at your web report, you'll notice in B208, it has the Defender General money in the public safety.
So did you correct the web report?
We'll correct the web report.
Because we're also gonna hand out the web report.
Yeah, and that's a question we can take offline, is whether or not you want to hand out a corrected web report, or the one you got on Friday.
Yeah, okay.
Or a third, even more incorrect one.
We could make other incorrect.
The web report with the amendment or without the amendment is the question.
Okay.
On page 2, so the third instance of amendment you saw before, you'll see that in sub 2 of sub N, this is consolidating all of the DHFA appropriations into one, and then just noting for the chair's comment that now it reads no less than 1 million rather than up to. The fourth instance of amendment, that is a new amendment to section B1101 FY 2025 closeout. So that's just correcting the number, changing it from 138,520,000 to 138,970,000.
And this is what makes up for the new money from DFR and unclaimed property. To the general fund.
On page 3, the 5th instance of amendment would be to subdivision A3A of section B1103, one-time capital appropriation. So this is just correcting a Scrivener's error that the Bennington High School appropriation should match the capital bill, and that's $1.1 million, not $1 million. The 6th instance of amendment is to section C102, FY25 fund transfers, B2B, striking out $8,037,000 and inserting $8,242,000.
This is the unclaimed property change.
Increase amount.
Yeah.
The 7th of amendment also to section C102, FY25 fund transfers, in sub B3, striking out $65,060,000 and inserting $65,260,000.
This one is the DFR.
Right, you got the 50 cents. Now.
Yes, that's important. $65 million.
The 8th instance of amendment, FY26 fund transfers, subdivision A1H, following subdivision A1H, inserting a new subdivision A1I. That's the $1 million transfer to the new Farm Security Special Fund. The 9th instance of amendment,
Can I just ask a quick question here, Brady? So does that mean we're going from 1 million back up to?
It just was the 1 million that we said we were gonna do, they just didn't ever do it.
We completely forgot to put it in.
Okay, so what is going to be in the fund then? The 6 million or the 1 million?
1 million.
1 million, okay, thank you.
Because that's the 8th amendment, the 9th amendment.
The 9th amendment would be to section D102 reversion, striking out 5 million and inserting in lieu thereof 6 million. So that's the treasurer reversion. So that's how we corrected the 19 million was 20 million appropriation, that's 27. So that's the correction that you'll see here. The 10th instance of amendment is the positions language. So I won't go through all of that again unless the committee has questions. Nothing's changed to that since you last saw the amendment package last week. I would just note that on page 5 in sub C, we added the word classified to the establishment of one limited service position. So last week it just read the establishment of one limited service position as a classified position. So we're just adding that word in for clarity. The 11th instance of amendment is to section E127.3. That's relating to the rescission language. Because.
Sorry, Grady, go back to the 10th instance. That's where we make sure that the state's attorney positions are permanent, not just 1 year.
Correct. So you'll see that in sub D.
Okay.
The 11th instance of amendment, so the committee, toward the end of its bill process, took some of that rescission language that was originally drafted to the Indian statute and made it section E127.4, so just session law. But that section E127.3 had a reference to that statutory language, so we're just correcting that internal reference from 32 BSA 3C E3 to section E127.4 of this act. On page 6, this would be the last instance of amendment to section E504.3. This would be striking the sub D that Senator Russman had in his original language relating to Applehead.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a suggestion. I have the addendum and I'm on page 84 and it's E300.2, which is a fairly comprehensive evaluation of opportunities to achieve operational efficiencies.
What page is it?
It's on page 84. This is the study that was to be done. It's theoretically a full analysis of organizational and funding structures and of community-based services within the Agency of Human Services. There's actually not a lot of support for this anywhere. I think it may actually get in the way of the work that the agency is currently doing. Well, I would honestly suggest that we strike that section.
We have the language from the House bill
Right,
that does something that was kind of
it does even
incomprehensible.
more than this.
Well, it was hard to understand what the House wanted to do. The idea was to try to make it make sense.
I would support Senator Lyons
It
in
might be
that.
worth a discussion if it's not there.
I think that's
But we're,
probably right.
if it's there, then we can have the discussion in the conference committee about what we want to do and what agency, human services. Because I understood that the agency wanted something like this, but I did get kind of contradictory information from them about whether they wanted to do.
Well, if they're going to do this, then they're gonna need some money to do it.
I think this was a single
This is a lot.
member
It was one
on
person.
the House Appropriations Committee. They pushed this specifically.
Right, well, I also thought in my discussions with the agency that they wanted to do something like this and they didn't understand what the House was doing and that they wanted something that made more sense, so that's why I asked the council to try to understand what the House is doing to redraft it. So I would like to talk to the agency of human services to understand better what they
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, but I don't wanna, I'd rather keep it in and talk about it in conference committee.
But if it's out, then this becomes a nice possible discussion for compromise.
Well, either way, whether it's out or in, it's open for discussion in conference committee. I don't think we have enough time to decide right now to take it out.
I think that the work involved in here is going to require some funding, both to the community agencies and we've got parent-child centers, community action agencies, which are currently in H91 and theoretically going through quite a transformation for funding for the housing program. Also have in here all of our designated agencies and specialized service agencies.
But the work is just all by the agency of human services. So report back.
I'm thinking it's a lot of work.
Well, I haven't heard from the agency that they don't want to do it.
All right, well, we'll have to talk with them, but they're also going to be working on VHAR, the housing program, new changes. They're also working on S-126, which is the healthcare reform bill, and they're also continuing work on hospital transformation. You know, so this adds another a lot.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, I mean, we should have taken more testimony on it, and I didn't hear from them directly, they didn't come to me and ask. But when I did talk to them at one point, they said this is the type of study that they would like to do, and they didn't really understand what the House was, so I thought this was clarifying.
It is certainly an improvement over what the House has, there's no question about that. It's still quite a heavy load, so I do think talking with the secretary might be a good idea.
Well, I guess I'll leave it in, and I'll talk to the secretary, and we can have another amendment or take it out.
Okay, we can do that.
Secretary really doesn't want to do it, but I'd like to hear from her directly, because there's what I thought I understood that they would like to happen, but maybe this is just not it.
We'll figure it out.
Okay. Any other questions about the amendment as presented today? Okay. So this committee was there, Friday. The 8-12 instances of amendments, what the committee would propose, unless there's people that don't want
It's better than
the committee
13.
doesn't want to be named on here. Okay. All right, so
Okay.
for an amendment, unless somebody says they don't want to be on there, I'll say it's from the committee. I guess we could we don't have to take a vote on the shuffle.
If our names are all on it, you don't.
Yeah. So it's just a shuffle. All in favor of these proposals? Okay, we got it. Okay, so that'll be submitted to the secretary.
I think we would give it to you.
Yeah, it'll be submitted by me.
Can I just say, I think you guys are still using Vermont State Colleges under the department instead of Vermont State
Which
University.
one? Oh, yeah, that's what we said. Okay. I will do that.
So it's two sheets we using today?
I mean, it doesn't have to
They're
be
gonna be
done
packed out.
in this, you know?
So,
Yeah, we're way behind.
in order,
Yeah.
Sorry?
and
For
what
Vermont
exactly are we
And are we using the new, we're using the new sheets that we got today, right?
Wait, something's going on.
Okay, so there's now Vermont State University and CCD and state colleges is the fiduciary board. Okay.
Vermont State College. Okay, you don't need
So
to
it's
make
correct.
It is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Learn something new.
So here's my proposal for order of things. So I'll go first, I'll do an introduction, and then I'll go through my sections, which are B100 and B200 for them. Those are at the beginning. But then
Just when you
North's got to take that back.
He has no other way.
Permission to use that.
So then, Senator Norris, I had you going second.
Second.
Senator Lyons going third.
I'm gonna yield to Senator Lyons then.
Yes, I'll yield to Norris. Norris will yield to Lyons. Lyons will yield to Weston. Because I didn't know, you guys were intermixing your, so I put it all, be together. And if you want to do Weston first and then Lyons, that's okay. But I'm saying Lyons first, then Weston, then Watson, then Brennan, then Baruch, and then back to me for whatever final. I'll do the effective date.
Wrap up.
Nice.
So it's Chittenden,
But you're doing all the one times, right?
And I'm gonna do all the ones. I'm not gonna
Chittenden
go.
Southeast.
So all we have to do is our,
I surprised
our
myself.
base budget
Central.
and,
Yeah.
and
So
the
how come
language.
Base
Colchester
budget
doesn't get a
and
shot?
languages
Why
that
are you
affect your
from Grand Isle
sections.
Why am I the senator from Grand Isle?
instead of sending
Okay.
Colchester's last
I'll do it.
Because you got too many down there now.
Got more people.
Oh, way more.
So why?
That's why I'm here.
Why do we call it,
He's getting into redistricting questions, not
Yeah,
the
he's-
presentation.
I don't know if I should answer this question just yet.
Okay.
No, I don't
Wait
know.
till you're offline, Dave.
I'm not sure.
And Baruch is
Oh,
doing all of childcare.
Yes.
Oh, wait, are you doing all of childcare?
Well, you, last time we talked about it, said.
Right, you're gonna do childcare. I might mention
Andy, which
childcare,
ones are
but you can do
passing
the,
out?
you're gonna do that.
The transfer.
Yeah, and anything that I don't
one
do,
time.
I'm doing.
But you're covering the one time, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna cover all this, not that one-time sheet, this one-time sheet, the one that's over there with the same on top.
This one?
This one, and I'll go over these, and then the base one that has the blue top.
Okay.
And then they'll also get the web report. And they'll get a highlight sheet.
Are we, working out of the addendum at all?
I was, where there's language,
Yeah.
but you could work on, the problem with the web report is no page numbers, but you could say section B 213.
I think it's better if we have something with page numbers.
Although if we have to reprint them, we could maybe print it with page numbers.
Our version has page numbers, but you're talking in.
Oh, does that have page numbers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's just,
Oh, okay.
The last
I
one
was
does.
using the
Oh, okay.
addendum.
Was this an earlier version, I guess?
Okay,
So you could refer to the page numbers in web report,
okay.
or you could find it in here. But, you know, in here, your sections look like this.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
what
not a lot to point to.
That's true.
I was gonna do the base budget with the web report and then use that for the language.
Right, I think, because there's no language in the web report, except sometimes a little description
And
there.
then the addendum for that.
Oh, just have to redo it all tonight.
And are we getting a new web report? 'Cause
Web report we got last week is almost correct.
I think the
Very
like,
encouraging.
the, like, to the extent you've already prepared your remarks and it has page numbers referred to the web
Right.
report you got on Friday.
We should just keep that one.
If that makes your life easier. You just have to make sure that we say this is the web report prior to the
To
amendment.
the amendment.
Which the amendment really only changes two things on the web report, which is the public safety, public defender, and the S-27 medical debt.
So we'll just, yeah, we'll mention that the web report is prior to the amendment. You wouldn't change the page numbers, it would just change some of those.
You think it wouldn't change the page numbers, but
You never
then
know.
you never know, because it's a big, long
Yeah.
website, so when you hit print, it's hard to know.
Okay.
I'm just gonna refer to pages, with the language. Some of the language is important.
Okay.
You know.
And you can do it all through the addendum, you don't have to point to the web report. In the addendum
Yeah.
are the sections, so if somebody saw, oh, here's public safety, state police, and they wanted more information, they could just go look at B209 in the web report to get more detail.
Might be good.
This is all a little easier.
Are we on the floor line tomorrow?
From
Yes.
floor one for a caucus of the whole first.
How's the caucus of the whole going to work? Are you,
Just Andy.
I was just gonna
Andy's
go
gonna
through
do
the,
all the talking.
I'll do the highlights kind of thing and then say, explain the handout. But then say, the whole committee will be presenting the budget. So you find a question on a specific department or one time or language change, you can pay attention to find out who to ask their question.
Are you done yet, Pat?
What?
Are you done yet?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, any other